This episode was made possible by a Patreon donation by T&M Comics, creating fantastic realms of demon hunters, warring gods, and more. And by The Roommate from Hell, a webcomic about gays and their metaphorical and literal demons. Thank you. Greetings, mortals. Welcome to another session of the Infernal Court in musical hell. I'm Diva, your judge, jury, executioner, and break out the tortilla chips and fondue pots because we have got some rare vintage fromage on the dock for you today. First, allow me to set the scene. It's the late 80s, early 90s, and Andrew Lloyd Webber's Phantom of the Opera is basically the Hamilton of its time. Everyone wants to see it, nobody can get tickets, and the flyover states have a long wait before the touring companies roll in. And since this was before the era of YouTube and easily accessible, cleverly named bootlegs, something else had to fill the void. Because Gaston Leroux's Phantom of the Opera is in the public domain, that something was a lot of other adaptations of Phantom, including a slasher horror film, a miniseries based on another musical that Lloyd Webber beat to Broadway, long story, and a whole raft of other stage productions, including our next offender, a 1990 musical performed at Miami's Hirschfeld Theater. The music in this particular iteration is by Lawrence Rosen and Paul Schierhorn, but it's usually referred to as the Staller Phantom after lead actor David Staller. But the real reason it's been preserved for posterity is producer Abe Hirschfeld, parking lot tycoon and a man who was, well,
to put it mildly, peculiar.
Yeah, Hirschfeld was eccentric, which of course is the nice way of saying crazy but rich. Among his more notable projects were several failed political campaigns, running the New York Post for all of 2 weeks, attempting to pay off Bill Clinton accuser Paula Jones, an early effort to boost Donald Trump as a presidential candidate, soliciting a hitman to kill his business partner. I swear to Lucifer, I am making none of this up. And putting up the funds to not only stage this Andrew Lloyd Webber knockoff, but also to film it for South Florida PBS outlet WPBT and give said film a limited New York run. And now, I'm sharing its delights with you. So let's examine the case of the other Phantom of the Opera. As with the more well-known Phantom musical, this one also begins with a prologue, in this case involving a baby Christine Daae dancing with her scarf on the beaches of Calais while her dad plays the violin. A baby Raoul de Chauny comes upon them and is immediately smitten with the young girl.
Such a perfect one is she. One day, I will find her again.
Wow, let's start off with sin number 1. Even for something as inherently melodramatic as Phantom of the Opera, this is way over the top. I love melodrama. I think most people who love musicals do, even if they don't want to admit it, because there's something inherently melodramatic about bursting into song during emotionally intense moments. But it is a tightrope walk. Too little and it lacks the necessary energy to make it work, too much and it becomes ridiculous. This is definitely the director's fault, as things are much more effective when the actors are allowed to dial it back a tick, David Staller in particular.
You will find that I am more human than all those who call me monster. Here is a land where passion reigns. It will sweep the blinders from their eyes when at last they hear my Don Juan.
Sometime later, the adult Christine is practicing in her dressing room when a disembodied voice starts giving vague but somehow helpful advice. Christine is understandably weirded out by all this, in no small part due to the increasingly purple prose coming at her.
I will kindle that flame, and your voice will blaze with glory. I will draw lightning from your very soul.
In comes Madame Giry and her rather unsettling hairstyle, and she's not exactly helpful when Christine starts freaking out about hearing voices.
Think of him as the spirit of music. Did you not always know he would come to you?
So this version is going secular. Nobody tell Fox News about this or we'll never hear the end of it. The end result is Christine decides, well, this might as well happen, and joins her new singing teacher in a semi-decent duet. We switch to the stage of the Paris Opera and... Wait, 10 years later? is that supposed to be 10 years after the first scene or 10 years after the scene we just saw? Sin number 2. The filming of this production is amateurish at best and inept at worst. The only thing that keeps it above bootleg quality is the multiple camera angles, and there are these rather awful fake pastel stills that show up between the scenes. All in all, not the best way for Hirschfeld to showcase his alternative to a hit Broadway show. Anyway, 10 years after whenever, there's the usual amount of stagehands and ballet girls fluttering about, with some pretty impressive 90s hair on the latter. And of course, there's some phantoming going on with mysterious cloaked figures and dramatic stings, which the ballet girls gossip about via sin number 3 in the house. On one hand, I do have to say I kind of like the verses, with the dancers trading different rumors about the Phantom, a conversation that owes a lot to the first chapter of LaRue's novel. But the chorus of this song hurts. I can only understand about half of what they're saying, mostly due to the blood in my ears. Also telling tales of the opera ghost is the red-shirt stagehand Joseph Bouquet, who gets interrogated by... Can it be?
But I am thinking file will be of no use. No, definitely no use. Something else is, if you'll pardon the expression, afoot.
Yes, we have Persian. This is not a drill. For those of you unacquainted with Phantom canon, the Persian, also known as Daroga, which means police chief, I guess that's LaRue's story and he's sticking to it, is a character who plays a significant supporting role in the original novel, but for some bizarre reason almost never makes it into adaptations. He has a loosely defined backstory with the Phantom, and eventually acts as the guide character into the latter's realm. But for now he's mostly lurking on the sidelines, being mysterious. Next enter the managers, Richard and Moncharmont, flanking Carlotta, who is being all haughty and prima donna-y and refusing to perform for the opera's upcoming benefit concert. This puts the management in a bind, as the tickets have already been sold, and, despite Madame Giry's hints that Christine would be a suitable replacement, they don't really have a reliable understudy.
Why, cancellation would mean...
refunds.
I beg your pardon, mon chemin. I am unfamiliar with that term.
It means we have to give the money
I
back.
know what it means.
Okay, that bit is automatically funnier than the scrap metal running gag. Also, neat bit of trivia. Moncharmont is played by none other than notable voice actor and BlizzCon host Darren DePaul. The manager's scenes become a lot more entertaining when you imagine Reinhardt is involved.
I promise you, it will calm down. It will be ready.
Calm down! Get ready!
Do I have your attention yet?
Carlotta is eventually persuaded to perform for the wealthy benefactors who will be at the charity concert, and even the scenery attacking her is not going to dissuade her. But for now, let's go to the manager's office, where the Phantom is leaving the usual demands for money and reserved boxes, and also stealing assorted objects, resulting in what I fear is meant to be comic relief.
Are you accusing me of fancy bookkeeping?
Come out and face me!
Boo! You animal! I didn't break your glasses. We've got to stop this petty bickering.
I agree, it stopped being funny at least 3 minutes ago. But alas, we get instead sin number 4, running the show, a vaudeville pastiche focusing on backhanded compliments.
Astute commander!
Mein Herr le Kaiser!
The chintzy miser? I despise the old brute.
Yeah, bosom buddies, this ain't. The Phantom also joins in for a verse, and the song really isn't suited for him.
You dance, you footstool. Oh, look! You stoop, you sniveler! What need have I to stoop to toady and tool?
The benefit concert goes on as planned, but Carlotta's rendition of the Jewel song is interrupted by the Phantom feeling up the stagehands and dropping sandbags on the stage. And when Carlotta refuses to take the hint, he resorts to bitching about it to Joseph Bouquet via some painfully cheesy post-production effects.
Arsenic and her atomizer. Too easy. Ground glass in her bonbon. Takes too long.
Eventually, the Phantom threatens Bouquet into sabotaging the performance, which, come on, what self-respecting opera ghost needs the red-shirt stagehand to do his dirty work for him? sending Carlotta storming off and clearing the way for Christine's big debut. Elizabeth Walsh gives quite a good rendition of Ach ich fühl's, which sadly is marred by Raoul's bad counterpoint and flashback overlay. Christine passes out from too much desperate longing in the air, and the managers are generally thrilled with her performance. But Carlotta is still angry and calling for Bouquet's dismissal, while Bouquet is sticking with his "the ghost made me do it" story, which the Persian indicates probably is not the wisest of moves. For her own part, Carlotta gets a surprisingly touching troubles of being a woman of a certain age in the entertainment industry solo.
An able woman is likely replaced when some new figure or face makes heartbeats race.
Christine is recovering in her dressing room when Raoul shows up and asks her to the masked ball which is happening at midnight. It's pretty short notice, but Christine agrees over the objections of Madame Giry and the ominous music. Of course, the Phantom has other ideas, and Raoul returns to find an empty room and a singularly unhelpful Daroga.
Well, they're quite gone now.
Yes. Well, that's obvious.
The totally not doubles descend to the Phantom's swanky bachelor pad, where Christine is understandably freaked out by the situation and teeth marks all over the scenery. But the Phantom makes a pretty good effort at pleading for her affections in the production's saving grace, perfect music.
Mine is the gift. I'll make you see. All you must do is sing only for me.
For a pretty obvious Music of the Night knockoff, this isn't half bad, especially in the first section, which is eerie and hypnotic, and where Stoller exhibits most of his mystery, tragic desperation, and sinister allure. Even the blocking of the scene, which is more than a little WTF, doesn't lessen the overall effect much. Christine, what are you reaching for? Bad touch, bad touch. Despite being well and truly fascinated by her singing teacher's mystique, Christine is still put off by the overall creepy and goes, look, this is nice and all, but there's this party I need to get to. But the Phantom plans on attending the ball himself to do Phantom business, and is even pretty chill about the whole Raoul thing, more or less.
You may see your little Vicomte. He is no threat to me, but I warn you, do not attempt to see him beyond the walls of the Opera House.
Well, there's an oddly specific condition that in no way is going to end up biting anyone in the ass. Christine is not too thrilled with the attempt to restrict her movements, and is all, "You coward, show me your face!" And the Phantom is all, "You could not possibly understand the depths of my man-pain and would run away as everyone else has." This ends in the usual fashion.
If you are as you say, your appearance won't matter.
Even this low-budget regional production has a better makeup job than the damn Schumacher film. Despite her fear, Christine is overcome with compassion and... Hey, it's not every day I get to use that clip. Act 2 begins at the Masquerade Ball, complete with biblical symbology staircase and everybody's favorite theme song. Music aside, I'm really disappointed in this Masquerade scene. I know we're not working with a Broadway budget here, but I still expect something a little more elaborate than formal dress and domino masks. You hear me over there, Restage Tour? Bouquet is drunk and blabbing about the Phantom to anyone who will listen, and he might as well announce he's 3 days from retirement while he's at it. Carlotta is also in attendance and determined to reclaim her place as the opera's prima donna with the somewhat dubious support of the management.
Imagine applauding that way for a neophyte. I like it.
What's wrong with the classics? I love Hasselhoff.
Christine and Raoul come on and do their "What happened to you? I can't explain right now because it's too dangerous" dance. But she eventually agrees to tell him everything, and they head for the rooftop just as the Phantom turns up dressed as a really bad bronze cast of Dan Stevens as the Beast. He's in a pretty bad temper, forcing Bouquet off stage by the throat and reprimanding the management for not giving in to his demands. Sadly, this production doesn't have any convenient lighting fixtures for him to take his anger out on, but it does have Carlotta giving an impromptu performance for the guests.
Oh, a sip of punch.
Oh, Carlotta, sweetheart, safety rule number 1, don't accept a drink if you don't know where it came from. And indeed, Carlotta's rendition of the Queen of the Night aria becomes a fiasco as her voice swings abruptly from coloratura to baritone. Though give the woman credit, she soldiers on through the whole song in spite of it all. Now there's a trooper. Carlotta flees the ball and the musical in humiliation, and bring on the dancers. Come on, obviously I love that piece, but doesn't the band know another one? You know what? Never mind. Go back to the Saint songs. The Phantom creates one final disruption as Bouquet staggers onto the dance floor with an axe in his back. Oblivious to all of this, Christine and Raoul are having their assignation on the roof, featuring a not at all metaphorical conversation on the nature of celebrity.
They each want to think that you sing for them alone. That you'll become the star of 1,000 private fantasies.
Whatever you do, don't tell Christine about deviant art. Raoul is actually pretty forward-thinking in terms of Christine being a career woman, although the knowledge of her stalkery singing teacher sends him into fight-me mode. For her own part, Christine has her own complicated feelings about the situation, but is generally more inclined to Raoul's rather less possessive form of affection, and they both express their sentiments in the musical's anemic All I Ask of You analog.
There's someone out there, and it's someone that I know.
Unfortunately for them, the Phantom has finished terrorizing the party downstairs and isn't too happy about this recent development.
Tina! I warned you. Never outside of the opera house. Who are you?
Oh, now you're just being nitpicky. Raoul conveniently steps aside so the Phantom can abscond with Christine, and I just realized this entire plot is moving extremely fast. Not counting a few framing scenes, the whole thing seems to take place inside 24 hours. Makes for an especially busy night. Fortunately for Raoul, the Persian is there to offer his assistance, because Lord of Darkness knows Raoul needs it.
Begging your pardon, Monsieur le Vicomte, this is no time for impetuousness. Please, you are very carefully choosing the right rope.
The right rope? You mean this could be a trap?
No shit, Sherlock.
I myself would be choosing this
All
other
right,
one.
Then, the one on the left. You said the one on the left. I could have been killed. What's the matter with you?
Damn, Daroga, you're supposed to be the smart one in this cast. Meanwhile, in the Phantom's lair, the Phantom is all, "You promised, besides, look at what I'm offering you." And Christine is all, "You're crazy as ruining everything, and I refuse to sacrifice my freedom for music." And the Phantom gets a kind of nice, if somewhat meandering solo about how miserable his life is.
A man whose mind has come undone, creator of a symphony.
Christine is moved by this plea, but at that point, Raoul and the Persian show up, doing a very bad job at being stealthy.
We'll defeat him with the element of surprise.
Are you learning so little from our journey? I am thinking you're an impetuous boy after all. No, you are not overtaking this man by force.
Especially since we are shouting at the top of our lungs on the catwalk right above him. Raoul shows up and is all, "Unhand her, villain!" And the Phantom is so confident in his hold on Christine that he permits her to choose between the two of them. Needless to say, this does not go as he hopes.
Raoul, take me away from here.
So Christine and Raoul leave together and the Phantom does nothing? What a disappointing excuse for a climax. There's no real tension, because of course Christine is going to go for the non-crazy option, and there's nothing at stake if she follows her natural inclination. And because he never gets Christine's example of selflessness and compassion, the Phantom doesn't learn anything and so is never truly redeemed. He's sad about it, sure, but he pulls himself together pretty quickly to chat with the somewhat sympathetic Persian.
I could be rid of you if I wanted.
But you do not want. That would be no fun at all.
And Feroga shippers just punched the air. The Phantom disappears in a puff of smoke, and the musical is not over yet because we have Christine and Raoul doing the anemic reprise to their anemic love song. Even more anticlimactic than the scene we just went through, but at last, we're still not done.
Very good.
Who's that?
Let the spirit move you. Let the passion carry you.
Okay, first, way to cancel out what emotional impact your previous scenes had. Second, Eric, don't go taking ballet dancers under your wing, because that way leads to terrible vaudeville numbers and fridging your leading lady for no good reason, and we've all had quite enough of that.
I am whatever you want me to be.
True camp cannot be made, it can only be found, and this version of Phantom of the Opera is true camp at its best. There are several scenes which work quite well, most of them due to David Staller and Elizabeth Walsh in the lead roles, but mostly it's a glorious, so bad it's good experience. Still, if I acknowledge I enjoyed it too much, I'll pay for it in the next review, so the Court of Musical Hell issues the following punishments. For the clumsy, over-the-top directing, Darwin Knight is condemned to do pratfalls on every slippery surface he comes across. For a generally unsatisfying conclusion, writer Bruce Fallstein is condemned to always get fortune cookies for dessert. And finally, for this weak attempt to cash in on someone else's success, Abe Hirschfeld is condemned to a Disney Mockbuster Film Festival. So let it be recorded. This session of the Infernal Court in Musical Hell is now adjourned, and hopefully I'm safe from, fucking course.